It's about as effective as putting a condom on your finger.
Exactly. And to be fair, you should use a condom on your finger because we don't really know where you have put it before. FYI.
This is levels that this podcast should not be going down to. It's pretty much our normal level of conversation, though, is it not?
No under 18s, please. No under 18s. Not suitable.
Getting back on track.
Please.
I mean, well, in terms of lockdown, it is actually quite relevant because they're saying that you're not allowed sex with partners outside your household.
You also have to wear a mask while you're having the sex. I mean, how is that even helping anyone?
I don't even...
Or next thing you could say is keep 2 meters apart while... Yeah, no, I mean, how? Whoa.
Doing foreplay with a litter picker.
Yeah. No.
Using a walking stick, are you there yet?
No.
But the thing with... Sorry, all these visions are going through my mind at this moment in time.
Please don't stop them, all of them now.
It's quite horrendous. He starts swearing at me in Greek.
I was Italian for dot. Put a full stop there.
The interesting thing with sort of all these lockdown measures, so in Manchester at the moment there's this big argument going on as to whether we're going to go into tier 3 lockdown, which is closure of all hospitality essentially. I mean, I have several issues with the way that lockdown is managed, particularly in regards to the hospitality sector, and my main thing is that there is just literally fuck all support that exists for the hospitality sector. Yes, there is some, but you have to be in tier 3 total lockdown in order to access that support. For us as a hotel, we have no access to support because tier 3 is that you are advised not to go on overnight stays anywhere, that you're advised not to travel into or out of these areas. But hotels are not mandated to close. Pubs and bars that are not serving food are also mandated to close. And I was actually laughing at this because there is a nightclub in London, a very well-known nightclub, which has suddenly started doing food in order to stay open until 10 p.m, which is a bit pointless, really, because, you know, a nightclub is operating at night. So I don't know what their exact operation is, but I just saw someone posting on Twitter that they were now doing food in order to stay open as a restaurant. Reminds me of one of the clubs I went to years ago that had a restaurant license, and they always had a buffet on. So they were a nightclub, but you always had to go upstairs, and the doorman made sure that you went and had something to eat before you went into the nightclub. It was a very surreal experience. It was one-way round licensing at the time.
One way to up your revenues points.
You didn't. Well, you had to pay a door entry fee, so I suppose that went towards the food. But apart from that, you didn't have to pay for the food. So most of the time you went in, you ate like 2 chips and a chicken nugget, and then went and got hammered. Yeah. At least you weren't drinking on an empty stomach. Look on the bright side of this.
Yeah. That's above everything.
And to be fair, if you only had £2 to feed yourself, you just paid £2 door entry fee and went in and had yourself an entire buffet. You could help yourself to, walking out with 6 chicken nuggets stuffed in your pocket.
I can see that.
Not that I ever did that with my last £2, of course. But the lockdown restrictions, the way that they are, because hotels are not mandated to close, they essentially won't be able to access these grants that are there from the government, which is a really shit situation. And when you delve into these grants and they're saying, well, you can get $1,500 if you close for 3 weeks if your rateable value is this, or potentially $3,000 if your rateable value is above that. It's a really shit situation for most hotels because, take for example here, our rent for this building could be in excess of £10,000 a week. Now, if I'm getting 500 quid, that's not even touching the sides. It's literally not even paying to keep the lights on in the building for a week. It's definitely not paying my wage. It's not paying basic utilities. It's not paying rent. It's literally 500 quid. It feels a bit like hush money.
I'm not quite sure. I don't think I'm the right person to even have an opinion on that. I mean, from what I have seen is that this government, and please do not get me misunderstood on that.
Basically, you don't want to get kicked out of the country by saying this.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, this government just waits around, sees what other governments are doing, and they say, well, this has worked in this country, so I'm taking this one. This has worked in this country, I'm taking this measure, and I'm putting it into place. Well, I mean, in Greece, things where I went back in August, to be fair, in Greece, and the measures were not as strict and bad as they said they were. They passed the time where they had to actually have formal statements of why they're going out of the house, and they had police visits and things like that, and they were sending text messages to a governmental thingy that gave them they say yes or no to go out or things like that. But I mean, right now, they try and see in which places everything goes up. Like, if corona cases go up, then they put in place stricter measures, and they form again the things they did. And it is a little bit more complicated than say, I can put just this neighborhood in tier 1, the other in tier 2, and the other one in tier 3, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
so it's a bit like us with, you can have local lockdowns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, in the end, is this. You have local lockdowns, and then you take it from there. But I guess in Manchester then there is something else that is going around the internet these days, that people want to have a Minister of Hospitality.
Yes.
Which I thought that already existed. I was surprised that it doesn't exist.
It is actually quite shocking that we have ministers for culture, you have ministers for sport, you have ministers for loads of other industry sectors, and hospitality contributes billions of pounds to the economy just through taxation, let alone all the other charges that we pay in. So things like the business rates, we've got VAT, we've got wage contributions, we've got contributions towards local economy, the events that happen in hospitality. You consider one event at the arena with 10,000 people, even 50% of that travelling into the area, that's 5,000 people booking rooms, going to restaurants, going to pubs and bars, using public transport. And this is part of my huge issue here, is that with hospitality at the moment, by having the restrictions that they do have, you're eliminating so much from the local economies. You're taking so much money away from them. But I can also understand why, because, as I said in the last episode, we have a situation where we need to reduce socialisation, and that's the main factor that they're targeting. And one of the biggest places that we socialise is in hospitality environments, in hotels, in pubs, in bars, in clubs, going to the theatre, that sort of thing. But my huge concern is that these are safe areas.
Yes, they are.
They are COVID secure areas, and I think in general the public are more aware in those areas than they are in others, such as you go to a pub and you can see people consciously trying to keep their distance from other people. You see more of that in a pub than you do in a shop. If I go to Tesco, I get barged past, I have people squeezing past me in aisles, reaching over to grab things from the shelves. You don't really see much of that in pubs and bars. Not in my experience, but there may be instances where that has happened. And admittedly, running the hotel here when we were open, we did see people passing by each other in close quarters, but never really any extended length of contact.
No, that's true. I mean, it's worse in the supermarkets at this point.
Yeah.
You don't really know. From one day they said you have to all be wearing masks, you have to do this. Even on the bus it's the same thing. You see people just going around without masks. You have some, to be fair, you do have some bus drivers that make you, literally, is either you wear it or you don't get on the bus, which is amazing, to be fair. But it's not too many of them that do that at this point.
It's the issue for a lot of businesses, really, is balancing public health versus confrontation.
Obviously.
So if you're stood there, and one of the things when we reopened, and one of the key things that was always the message was, all I expect you to do is just remind people. And we ask them to wear a mask, and we have masks, and we will provide them with one if they've forgotten theirs. And when they come through the door not wearing a mask, it's quite simply, do you need a mask?
Exactly.
That was it. There are some places, like going to my local Tesco, we do have effectively I call her the warden, so it's a regular woman that stands on the front door. Have you got a mask? Have you got a mask? Have you got a mask? Now, they don't have any masks to provide to people. They don't give masks out. So yesterday when I went to my local supermarket, I walked in, I'm wearing a mask, and the guy behind me wasn't wearing a mask. And I heard her say, oh, have you got a face mask? No, I haven't, I've forgotten it. Okay, just remember to wear one next time.
That will help a lot.
which is not useful if he is asymptomatic, or if he's going in there to get a flu remedy because he's starting to come down with symptoms of COVID, or he's waiting for a test, or anything like that. It's just not very helpful. And this is where my issue lies with a lot of the restrictions that are in place and a lot of what is happening with the lockdowns.
I think that you can only be, you could even take someone's, I don't know, see if someone has a fever or whatever when they come into a place.
Oh, don't even start me on temperature checks.
Yeah, from one point, that is one way to reassure that someone is in good health. But what if there are other things that contribute into these factors? And for women, we all know why that is. And for men, maybe they go through menopause too.
Well, it's called menopause. Let's be fair on this.
Yeah. But women do get what I mean with that.
Yeah.
It has to do with hormones and hormone levels and da-da-da-da. But I guess in these times, we just need to make sure that we follow the main measures.
Yeah.
And then everything else will come. I mean, yes, use the hand sanitizers. Yes, use your face masks. Yes, do this. Yes, do that. But then it is a little bit demotivating if you see someone that is not doing that.
Yes.
You are like...
It makes you feel, what's the point?
Of me trying to, do everything I have to. I mean, in the first lockdown, I was actually very scared going outside my house. I didn't want to go outside my house. I mean, I stayed in and I only went, every fortnight to go to the supermarket and stuff, so I don't really need to get out.
Yeah.
I mean, but I heard friends saying, well, I want to go to the pub. Well, you don't really want to do that, do you? I mean, you will go out. and go to places like, for example, in here in Manchester, Northern Quarter, I think they went above and beyond by having everything taking table service outside.
Yeah.
You just have to deal with an application and things like that, and you just download that, you order this, you pay contactless, you don't really even